It's no secret that a record number of people moving to our state has led to a much higher cost of living than we're used to. But since the pandemic, rents have been rising in cities like Colorado Springs in particular. News 5's Spencer Humphrey joins us live this evening with the details. Spencer?
Yeah, well, if you're a renter here in the Springs, the odds are pretty good that your landlord wants you to pay more in rent this year than last year. And real estate experts I talked to agree, telling me rent prices went up about 10% here in the Springs from this time last year. But something very important for all of us most likely didn't go up with those prices.
For over a year, Neil GERSTEIN has become more familiar with rent prices in North American cities than just about anyone else.
We're able to get a pretty good gauge on how rent prices are trending.
It's all part of his role with the rental listing website Zumper.
My official title is Growth Analyst.
Keeping track of the median rental prices in America's 100 biggest cities this past year, one thing was clear.
We saw one of the biggest rental market shifts, probably, at least in my lifetime, this last year.
That shift put markets like Colorado Springs front and center.
Colorado Springs, for a one-bedroom unit, prices are up about 10% from February of last year.
But just a little bit to the north.
And then in Denver, they're down about 6%.
How could that be? Denver is historically more expensive than the Springs. Well, simply put, the pandemic uprooted people's lives.
A lot of people started working from home and wanted to have more space.
But more space costs more money, especially in big cities.
Sort of what we saw generally was renters leaving dense, really expensive urban markets in favor of cheaper, often neighboring places.
For people from Denver, it was a good bang for their buck.
When this all started, Colorado Springs was, the cheaper market of the two.
But that trend creates a conundrum.
Places where incomes tended to be lower saw the most price gains in rent last year, whereas places where incomes tended to be higher, prices came down.
Odds are in cities like Colorado Springs, your salary has not gone up with our cost of living this past year.
Across the board, the cost of housing has gotten squished a bit.
It was a relatively unexpected conundrum.
Big shifts can happen. They're definitely not common.
But a conundrum worth addressing nonetheless.
Sometimes there will be, crazy earth-shattering events like what we saw last year.
Now, he tells me he has seen prices start to level off in markets around the country, but he says for hot markets like here in Colorado Springs, it's unlikely those prices will ever completely go back to where they used to be. Always watching out for you, Colorado Springs. Spencer Humphrey, News 5.